This story is about crime and punishment. It's about pain and suffering and deep, deep sorrow. After a year-long investigation, CAANZ, Chartered Accountants, Australia, New Zealand, has meted out a brutal and iron-fisted $50,000 fine to PwC. This draconian, almost cruel punishment for PwC is what CAANZ, Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand, called a confidentiality breach. Others have quite uncharitably described this confidentiality breach as treason and fraud. In case you missed it, it entails dozens of PwC high-level partners and others sharing information, flogging confidential government tax information to foreign multinational clients so those clients could pay less tax in Australia. PwC was advising the government on tax reform at the time that it was flogging its secrets to foreign multinational clients, such as Google, for a profit. That is what they call a confidentiality breach. Now, it's not known at this time how PwC and its partners will pay this extraordinary fine of $50,000. They may well have to dig deep and exhaust the firm's entire bicky jar. Who is CAANZ anyway? Who is this CAANZ? Well, they tried to hide it, but they actually are a quasi-regulator. Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand. Back in the day, before they merged with the New Zealand mob, they were called the Institute of Chartered Accountants. And it was such a big deal, they just used to call themselves the Institute. Will you be coming to lunch at the Institute today? But now it's CAANZ, and they are a regulator of sorts because they operate under, get this, a royal charter. They have powers to make disciplinary actions and stop people working as chartered accountants. They don't make much of a fuss about these regulatory powers, of course. That's up to ASIC, who thinks it's up to somebody else. There's others like the company's Regulators Disciplinary Board, something like that. Financial Reporting Council, the AASB, there's so many of them. And none of them, of course, are responsible for any of this historic fraud, this mess. Just to look at what CAANZ had to say, though, while it was meting out this extraordinary punishment of $50,000, and we're quoting the Fin Review here, Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand found that PwC had broken 3 of its bylaws when it was sanctioned by the Tax Practitioners Board over the tax leaks matter, including that the firm had brought discredit upon the profession. CAANZ fined the firm the current maximum $50,000 and ordered the firm to pay full costs of more than $45,000. Full costs! $45,000. The body, to go on quoting, the body said the firm cooperated with the investigation. The body, of course, is the Fin Review describing CAANZ. I thought the body was Elle Macpherson, but they're calling it CAANZ. The body said the firm cooperated with the investigation, which began in January when the Australian Financial Review first reported on the matter, because we'd known these guys have been crooks for many, many years and the regulator's been totally captured, but no matter. The Fin Review did a very good job. The TPB ruling, the story goes on to say, had been earlier disclosed to PwC in November 2022, and then finally CAANZ earlier this year burst onto the scene like a horse at the starting gates of a race where the other horses are bolted and they're halfway around the second turn, and CAANZ limps out the starting gate and joins the race. We checked the CAANZ disclosures and we can confirm that the body attains the very highest standards of waffle, the very apogee, the zenith of waffle. Here is what they had to say after the Senate was onto it, and it was one of the biggest kerfuffles in corporate Australian history. Well, actually, before we get to that, what they say and what they do, you could drive a truck between that. What they do is get, accountancy students through to get their chartered accountants qualification, and they do a lot of papers, they do a lot of submissions, 240 submissions last year to various government things. They're a lobby group, recommendations to government. They're big on making recommendations, holding conferences, and of course waffling. But of course they don't see it that way. CAANZ says, this is to quote their website, We protect the reputation of the designation, that's the accountant's profession, by ensuring members continue to comply with a code of ethics backed by a robust disciplinary process. That's that $45,000 payment on top of the $50,000, almost $100,000 for this confidentiality breach. We actively engage, they say, with governments, regulators and standard setters on behalf of members and the profession to advocate boldly in the public good. We just checked their staffing levels and their accounts. They've got a council adjacent to a board. The council has 17 members on it. Board has 11 members on it, directors. And then they've got an executive of 11 too. The KPIs are about 5 million. The salaries in this place are very high for people that are basically lobbyists and professional standards setters. And they have also a bunch of regional councils and many, a proliferation, a swarm of committees. Now here is the bold advocacy on PwC. CAANZ limps out of the gate with a statement, a 5-paragraph statement in May when things were absolutely exploding down in Canberra in parliamentary inquiry land. And they said, CAANZ Professional Conduct Committee, the PCC, is already investigating the matter in respect of the Tax Practitioners Board order against the firm. And we are following events very closely. That's what they do. They go on to say, under the bylaws, the PCC can investigate all individual members who are partners of any firm that had an adverse finding made against them or that has a condition placed on its registration. This is the basis of the PCC investigation, which commenced in January 2023 when the TPB order in respect of the firm is made public. And we love this bit. Ethics are the cornerstone of the profession, and any violation of that foundation will be pursued vigorously by Chartered Accountants Australia, New Zealand. There's a lot of vigour, there's a lot of boldness in the rhetoric. And then there were 4 pars in September when Ziggy Sritowski came down with his independent report about the scandal. 2 of the 3 PwC independent reports remain confidential. Ziggy's report, the one that's public, Ziggy actually notes in the small print that he was not given access to primary documents. He was told what he could say. He was allowed to see stuff that had been filtered by the partnership. The other, of course, big one in the past couple of years has been the KPMG cheating scandal. Hundreds of them cheating in their accountants' exams. The only reason it came to light was because a US regulator went public with it. Otherwise, CAANZ might not have even woken up to it, or it might have known and just tried to bury it. In any case, just as they call PwC's treason and massive fraud a confidentiality breach, they call the KPMG cheating, get this, internal training misconduct, into which they had a review, of course, always a review, much later, if they have to. They're dragged onto the battlefield when all the bodies are dying and they bayonet the dead. Here's what they had to say. Following the decision by the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, the PCAOB, in the US, an investigation was launched by our Independent Professional Conduct Committee. That's the PCC again, that good old CAANZ PCC, into the internal training misconduct by CAANZ members at KPMG Australia in relation to the 2019-2020 independence test, brackets KPMG training misconduct. The comprehensive investigation by the PCC involved the examination of the PCAOB order and release of As a result of that investigation, PCC identified a total of 422 CAANZ members who engaged to some degree in the KPMG training misconduct. Not cheating, just misconduct. So PwC treason and massive fraud, confidentiality breach, KPMG cheating scandal, a training misconduct issue, and a handful of people, just a handful of these hundreds, received a reprimand. Pat on the head stuff, really, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the CAANZ accounts, here it is. We know that this is basically just another front for the all-powerful, the omnipotent Big Four, Deloitte, KPMG, EY, PwC, of course. lest we forget. Revenue at CAANZ last year, this peak body, was 147 million, up from 143 million the year before. Where did that all go? Well, the bulk of it went. 90 million. They paid themselves more. That was up too. The bulk of it went on the employees, the executives and the workers. There we have it. This is a very well-heeled mob. No debt, of course. They own a multi-storey building from where they operate under their royal charter in town, and they show industry leadership of great boldness and great vigour. Because we know this. How do we know it? Because they say it is so. Almost all regulators in Australia are completely captured. It is a big problem. Thank you for your support. Please comment, share the video below, and throw us a few bucks on Patreon if you want us to continue to pull back the veil and check out what's going on at the big end of town, and all this absolute shenanigans is the only way that you could put it. And feeble, captured regulation. No one, it seems, is ever to blame.